The Cryptonaut Podcast is brought to you by Cryptid Crate. Visit cryptidcrate.com and at checkout use our promo code GRAMPUS, that's GRAMPUS, to get 10% off the entire life of your Cryptid Crate subscription. Cryptid Crate is a monthly subscription box filled with various cryptozoology and paranormal-themed items to wear, display, and collect. Each month, you can expect a carefully curated box filled with the creeptastic pieces from indie makers and artisans pertaining to Bigfoot, Sasquatch, UFOs, ghosts, and other cryptid and mysterious creatures. So again, be sure to sign up at cryptidcrate.com and at checkout, use our promo code GRAMPUS, that's GRAMPUS, to get 10% off the entire life of your Cryptid Crate subscription. Be sure to check out our TeePublic shop. The link for that will be in the description of this podcast. We got 4 designs up. 2 of them we recently launched. We have a couple more coming up in the next few months. If you want to help support the podcast, we get a little kickback on the end from the purchases. So you can grab yourself a t-shirt, a hoodie, a long sleeve, a coffee cup, a travel mug, whatever. You can rock some Cryptonaut gear, help support the show. It is greatly appreciated. And again, the link for that shop will be in the description of this podcast. So recently, Rob, Chris, and I appeared on the Multiverse Maidens live stream YouTube show. We had a great time talking with Kelly and Jess. It was super fun. We had a little bit of some tech issues on our side, not their side. They're pretty pro about stuff. Clearly, our live stream capabilities need to be upgraded a little bit, which they recently were, which could be a hint to a possible future Cryptonaut live stream. But nonetheless, be sure to check out the Multiverse Maidens. The link will be in the description of this podcast. There's an audio version and there's a video version. We had a super fun time talking with the ladies. It was awesome. We covered some cryptid stuff. We went super off topic at one point, and it was super fun. It's actually nice to kind of just sit down with the guys and talk like that, and not have to be so tied to a topic where you can kind of meander. And it was good. So be sure to check that out. We had a great time, and again, that is the Multiverse Maidens on YouTube. All right, so before we get started with this week's episode, I'm going to go over a couple of quick iTunes reviews. First, we're going to kick it off with Eddie A. Mothman, 5-star review, great podcast. I got to a point where I thought I found all the good podcasts to listen to, but then I found this one. These guys do an amazing job on the show. Feels good conversation, Sith good friends. I believe Eddie meant to say with, but because I am a Star Wars nerd, I'm going to keep Sith in because, like I said, I'm a Star Wars nerd. Okay, and the next review comes from Ren Snapped, 5-star review, brilliant. Such a great podcast. It's hard for me to find something that can keep my attention, but this one always keeps me entertained. I love listening, and as a special effects artist, this podcast gives me countless hours of entertainment while I work. All right, man, well, that's awesome. Great to hear that we're keeping you busy while you're doing some cool special effects. Moving on here, the next review comes from ASDF Zombie. Outstanding 5-star review. Great personalities with clear chemistry that makes it a joy to listen to. They don't take anything too seriously, but also give the subject matter respect. Good editing and clear audio. I came here from the Monsters Among Us podcast and the Astonishing Legends podcast. Great podcast for everyone. All right, awesome. Well, thanks. And hey, and as always, shout out to our buddy Derek and Addie over there at the Monsters Among Us podcast. We're super grateful that they're always pushing us, and in return, we like to always push them. And also to the boys over at the Astonishing Legends podcast. We recently got name dropped on there, and we got a bunch of listeners that came over to check out our show, so that's super cool. So if you are our listener and you have not checked out Monsters Among Us or Astonishing Legends, you should totally check them out. They're great podcasts. We're all kind of in the same vein of cool, crypto monster paranormal stuff. So check those shows out. They are awesome. And it's the time of the intro where I think I have rambled on quite enough. But before I let you get to the episode, we have one more announcement. Some of you may have seen on our social medias that we put up a post talking about a possible Cryptonaut live show here in Auburn, New York. We asked if people were interested in it. We got a really great response from it. So we will have more information on that coming up. We're just working out details with dates in the venue and whatnot. So, but for those of you that can't join us live, we will record it, an audio version of it. There might possibly be a video version of it. We're not sure yet, but regardless, there will definitely be an audio version of it. So we're probably going to do a regular episode and then maybe like an hour Q&A. So we're kind of shaky on the details, but we're just kind of putting that seed out there to see if people were interested, and they were. Cool. So there's all that. I have chewed up enough time, I believe. This is almost hitting the 5-minute mark. So without further ado, Christopher, cue that creepy music. Hello and welcome to the Cryptonaut Podcast. I'm Mark Storrs, and with me as always is
Chris
and
Rob Morphy.
Want to send a very big thank you to everyone that's been getting a hold of us, giving us positive feedback for the show. It means a lot to us. It's nice to know that, again, that people are into this. It's very, very good to know.
Absolutely. Super gratifying.
Definitely. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on the iTunes and the Apple Podcast apps. It helps us out greatly. We're on the social medias. We're on the Twitters. We're on the Facebooks. We're on the Instagrams. Be sure to hit us up there. And, we're there. We're talking. We're having fun. So without further ado, let's get into it this week. This is kind of fun because this is kind of close to us.
It is.
I think it's about, 2 hours away?
Hop, skip, and a jump.
All right, cool. So this week we were talking about the Copenhagen Devil. At the dawn of the 20th century, 3 people claimed to have had a pair of harrowing run-ins with a hulking horned albino beast, which some scientifically minded people have proposed was a lost subterranean species, while others insist that this demonic entity likely crawled its way up from the bowels of hell itself.
I mean, that's where the poop in hell is stored. The bowels. It's the worst part of hell.
Yes, the poop in hell is stored in the bowels. You are
Just,
correct,
I
Robert.
really wanted
Thank
to be
you.
explicit about that.
Yes. Now, Bowels of Hell, is it
Bowl.
like a Grim Reaper song or something?
It could very well be.
Okay. No, that was See You in Hell, right? I'll see you in hell.
Oh, yeah.
my- Yeah, okay.
Bowels in hell, my friend.
Ah, nice.
That's not the song.
No, that's not it at all.
Oh.
All right, so Robert, take it away.
Devil came down to Copenhagen looking for a soul to steal.
Looking at emptiest bowels in the field.
Looking to empty his bowels in the field. Oh, my God. That's awesome. Charlie Daniels, I'm so sorry. On Friday, May 25th, 1900.
Oh, the year 19. It was a good year.
Yes, I'm assuming it was.
Yeah, consumption, right? Isn't it
Oh,
consumption?
yeah, everyone had consumption. Scurvy was running rampant.
Nothing was invented.
No,
No.
I don't know. Did people make shoes out of mud and cry themselves to death?
I mean, there was cobblers. I'm
Surely.
sure.
Was there plumbing
Mud
yet?
cobblers.
Was there plumbing in 1900? Possibly.
I don't know that.
I should know that actually, but I
we
don't.
know nothing. We never researched
No.
the time period we're
We don't.
dealing with ever.
But this is coming to us from the Watertown Daily Times.
Yes, and I know it's pre-blimp, so I'm pretty excited about that. It is definitely not a crashing blimp, what we are about to discuss, no
Okay,
matter how
good.
much you guys might want it
I
to be.
feel like it could be, though.
The Watertown Daily Times, as Mark mentioned, published a bizarre account of a huge and potentially dangerous white-skinned creature which had terrified a trio of intrepid monster hunters just 3 days earlier. The event in question occurred on the evening of May 22nd, 1900, when 2 men, Homer Ward and J.D. Dryden, classic names.
There
Dryden.
you go. Men of the land.
Oh, yeah. Hardworking. Were making the 6-mile journey to Copenhagen from Deep River, which probably took them 11 days. I don't know how fucking travel works, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that was probably a hike.
Okay, so they were making the journey from Copenhagen to Copenhagen from Deer River, which is nestled deep in the bosom of upstate New York.
It's only like 2 hours from us, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's really close.
Yeah.
The men were returning from the farmhouse of their friend Charles Bowie in a horse and buggy which was being driven by Ward. The short trip had been uneventful until, that is, when Dryden abruptly noticed what he described as a large white object lying in a fenced-in lot just off the road. Dryden silently stared at the amorphous thing when it suddenly occurred to him that it resembled a gigantic animal at rest. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a little weird.
All right.
Dryden pointed out the immobile form to his riding companion. At this point, Ward whipped around and spied the thing as well, but he was also unable to identify it. Ward, whose curiosity had clearly usurped his better judgment, halted the horses and dismounted the buggy. He climbed the fence that separated the road from the lot and cautiously approached what he now took to be a pale, slumbering beast.
Bravery.
Okay.
Foolhardery.
So it was a beast at rest
So it's a bulky albino
of some sort.
thing.
It's
you have
taking
to
a
assume,
nap.
you have to assume you're seeing it breathe. That's how
Right.
you know it's animate.
Yep.
I mean, is it a bull that's just big and hunched over itself, laying down? I don't know how bulls sleep, but I mean, what are you thinking at this point? And you'd think if there's an albino big animal somewhere in somebody's farm, within a 6-mile range of your home, that would have been in all the town gossip and papers.
Right.
Big white bull or whatever, or horse or.
Big albino demon.
But it's probably the Copenhagen Devil.
Could be.
All right. Ward, no doubt to his companion's consternation, picked up a small stone and proceeded to throw it at the motionless monstrosity.
We've talked about this before.
It's the classic thing. This is how you deal with the unknown.
Apparently.
Find a rock, huck a rock. It's a two-principled thing. Einstein couldn't have simplified it more.
If you find a rock and you don't throw it, you might be in trouble.
You're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a UFO with fucking green space penguins
Yeah.
and you're an older farmer,
Yeah.
huck a rock.
Put it in the
If
oven.
you're Japanese boys and you find a baby
Yeah.
UFO with no space penguins, you huck a rock.
Well,
And then, as Chris said, put it in the
technically,
oven.
yeah, you got to put it in the oven. You got to beat it.
We've
Miniature
actually,
corpse goo ensues.
I know we've at least, I feel like 3 or 4 times we've come across this exact same protocol.
I think because it's human nature. When
To
you have
hook
a rock,
rocks?
I think so. When you have a rock in your, and it's probably what we did as
Do
monkeys.
you know what my nature says when I see a slumbering, massive beast, whether or not it's albino, that I can't identify?
Don't wake it up.
Tiptoe away.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we're all woke as the Dickens, as you say.
Yeah, well, we
so
are.
it's a different time. We're
I
different
just-
men.
Wait, why would you? A, why would you want to hurt it?
Different
but B, why would you
men.
want to piss it off?
We respect the unknown.
We respect the unknown.
Men
and
were
we
men.
and we walk away.
Respect the unknown and take the cowards out, which is the way men do. It's the 21st century.
Exactly.
Deal with it.
That's why we're not going to Mars anytime soon. Robert,
Oh no!
continue.
Can't breathe there. All right. So fucking he throws the rock without warning, and this is to be expected. The creature lunged up from its prone position, stared at the petrified ward for a brief moment before it moved away some distance like a streak of lightning, quote unquote, and then stopped once
So
again.
it booked away.
So it jumps up.
Right.
It stares at the guy.
It's like, the
at this
fuck
point, the
did
guy's
you just do
gotta
to
be
me?
ready to shit
You
his
threw
pants.
a rock at me?
But then it takes off,
Yeah.
like animals are wont to do. So maybe this indicates it's not aggressive. Maybe it was just surprised.
Right.
I don't know what his motives are, but at this point, you plumb fucked up, son.
Yeah.
You got to know that.
It knows what you've done. It knows what you want to do.
And even though it moved away a little bit, now it's stopped and it's looking at you and you're looking at it and you're in
Yeah.
the goddamn lot with a fence separating you from your fuck-sucking buddy and the buggy he's in
In a horse.
and your horse.
There's no car. There's a horse. And they probably don't have any rifles or anything.
Blowguns?
They don't mention it. If he had a rifle, I'd assume he would have taken it with him and probably shot it randomly instead of.
A musket?
Yeah, I don't know what 19. I think that's
A blunderbuss?
Jesus Christ!
Chris's favorite weapon of choice.
That is an
This is my
amazing
6-month word is blunderbuss.
Blunderbuss.
I tried to fit it in somewhere.
I'm so proud of you. Ward would later claim that the moment the creature scrambled to its feet, he was overcome by a feeling similar to an electric shock. No shit, Sherlock.
It's called panic.
Yes. Needless to say, the now terrified Ward sprinted back to the buggy and, with what one must assume was Dryden's approval, drove his horses as fast as he could the rest of the way home. After arriving at Ward's farm, the pair encountered Miss Nancy Klein, a new character in our
Aw,
story.
she sounds like a kind soul.
I know. She's probably reading Emily Dickinson,
Yeah.
and she's all pretty and perky and upbeat.
Or
Pollyanna.
maybe she's just a mean gossip.
We just don't know yet.
Ooh. Let's find out.
But it's Miss Nancy Klein, who also lived at Ward's home, though the nature of the relationship was not elucidated. Living in sin.
Wait a minute.
A
Miss
cousin?
Nancy Klein
no, let's not
was
throw-
living? No,
Let's
this is
not throw her
1900.
under the bus yet. We're not going to give her a scarlet A just because she happens to be living with Mr. Ward.
In
Homer
1900
Ward might have been a very noble soul.
Didn't people die at like 35 in 1900?
All the time. Probably
Okay.
22. I think the lifespan was
Exactly.
22. We're totally don't know.
So what are they doing?
I think they lived at
What's
least
going
to 40.
on? Is this like Downton Abbey?
This is like the dirty
Are they
Downton
doing dirty
Abbey.
things in the basement? Is that what the
Dude.
whole show's about?
No,
right?
she's probably
Copenhagen
the
Abbey.
maid, quote unquote maid.
quote unquote maid.
She's probably one of those like third cousin fiance things that used to be so
No.
prevalent at the
Yeah,
time.
That's why we have problems in upstate New York.
One of the many
Well,
reasons.
There you go.
Nancy
Wah, wah.
Klein. Klein, either through sheer exuberance, feminine wiles, or a simple challenge to their manhood, managed to convince the perturbed men to travel the short distance back to the lot in order to investigate the nature of the unusual white fiend.
There you go. Respect.
For reasons I cannot fathom, the foolhardy trio decided to forego the horses and made their way back to the scene of the encounter on foot, armed only with a lantern and their pluck. Yes, their pluck.
What? I'm dumb. What's their pluck?
Their pluck is just the moxie, the drive to go forward and face the unknown.
These guys are such men. It's terrible. She's like, yeah, why don't you go back and check it? Like, yeah, we will check it out with our lanterns and our
Not horses and no
yeah,
guns.
and our fists and our
You got it.
was it
Listen,
moxie? You said
Listen.
yeah, and our bravado. Is that a word? Right?
bravado is absolutely worth it.
Johnny Bravado.
It's a great word.
This sounds
Okay, good.
sketchy.
So I'm, you have to wonder. I mean, is Miss Klein just hot as the devil's balls? Is there a reason why you're acting
Is
like a
this a weird-
suicidal fool?
Are we
No,
talking like a weird?
she's
This
a-
almost sounds like a love triangle.
She's an agent of the beast.
Oh,
Ooh,
elaborate.
is she a succubus
She sent them back to get.
to go fight the animal.
Yeah, to become meat for the
Challenging
animal.
their manhood.
Yeah.
That is classic Chinese folklore where there is the beautiful bait that's in league with the demon, luring men to their untimely deaths.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in a lot of folklore, but it specifically brings up Chinese folklore to me. So I think Chris might be onto something.
Okay. Well,
I don't
let's-
know whether she's beautiful, innocent, engaged to a close family member or not. There might be something shady about Miss Nancy Klein.
Okay.
So they got their lantern and their pluck. And 3 are just like fucking skipping down the road. The proto-cryptozoologist, yes, I've designated them as such,
Nice.
set out down the dark stretch of road, but before they had arrived at the lot, Klein stopped the men, claiming that she had heard an eerie snort in the darkness ahead of them. Ward aimed the lantern's beam forward, and he, Klein, and Dryden realized that they were no longer alone, but now face to face with the albino beast, which was perched on its haunches in the middle of the road.
So they're going back to find it, but as they're leaving the house.
No, I think they've made it a bit of the way down the
okay,
road.
all right.
It's not very specific. The accounts are
Yeah.
very thin.
Well, it's 1900.
Yeah, and it was just a thing, that some
All
people
right, so this
reported.
is their second encounter with it, but this time they're face to face.
And they're on a lonely stretch of road.
Man versus beast.
Rocks, get ready.
you
You're
go.
going to be thrown.
Good luck with your fists, boys. You're going to need them.
I like that it was perched on its haunches.
I like that too.
Yeah, just hanging out.
It's just,
Sitting there
hey,
like,
what? Huh?
What's going on?
For the first time, they could make out all of this odd creature's unique characteristics. Dryden, Ward, and Klein testified that the thing bore a pair of horns and had a long tail as thick around as the body of a man.
Ooh.
That's some fucked up shit.
That's weird.
So, what we know now, it's albino. It's horned. But unlike, say a bull or other things that you might be like, all right, are they really, have they just never seen a fucking
It
bull?
has a tail.
It's got a big, thick, solid, like support your body weight tail.
Right.
It's pretty crazy, and it certainly doesn't fit any indigenous fauna to upstate New York.
No.
The horns, the tail, nothing like that. It's worth noting that these descriptions bear more than a passing resemblance to West Virginia's notorious sheep squatch.
Oh, shout out to Sheep Squatch.
Squatch, yo.
Yeah.
Sheep squatch for life.
I love Sheep Squatch. And actually, Sheep Squatch follows us on Twitter. What's up, Sheep Squatch?
The real one?
The actual sheep?
entity?
Yeah.
Don't question if Sheep Squatch is real or not.
All
'cause
right,
they're
hey.
not- they have a Twitter account, therefore.
I'm just asking if it was the
I'm
real.
just saying, are we
thing.
dealing with an actual cryptid or a fan of the cryptid? Because I'm cool with both.
They'll send in a tweet and let us know.
All right, that's fair. We're going to do sheep squatch eventually.
All right, good.
Probably. I say that a lot. But we do eventually get to all of these.
We will eventually
That's
one
a pretty
day.
awesome one.
Someday.
It also kind of resembles to me, honestly, what would happen if a wampa dry humped a fucking giant sloth. I mean, it's
Yeah,
weird.
the super tail.
Yeah, the super tail, the thickness, the horns. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to think wampa a little
I think
bit.
I could see a Wampa. Yeah, totally.
And there's also the Sherman mystery beast, which is very thin. And we've talked about this before, but this kid in the 60s wrote a letter to John Keel, the famous in my opinion, but sometimes considered infamous Mothman Prophecies author and paranormal
Right.
investigator, about giant albino ground sloths that used to come to his home near the border of Ohio and New York State, and that he and the rest of his family saw these things. They would like grab apples from the tree
I
and
vaguely
stuff.
remember this. Yeah.
I have a little article about it. The actual eyewitness, now an elder statesman, contacted me a few years ago. We started the correspondence, and just as I was getting more information, it dropped off. I hope nothing happened to him. It's always made me sad. One of the reasons we haven't actually done it on this podcast yet, it was, because we're still fairly new, but also because I still hope, beyond hope, that I'll find out more. But the point is, in New York State, there are, or at least one account of a family
Right.
seeing giant white sloths that should have been extinct for
Interesting.
tens
All
of
right.
thousands of years.
All right, so this thing is perched. Everybody sees it. Then what?
It's a super wampa, and
Super Wampa.
apparently uncomfortable under the lantern's harsh gaze, the possibly demonic entity charged over a nearby fence and disappeared into the darkness beyond, never to be seen again, at least by anyone who lived to tell the tale. Now, in the years that have ensued, some researchers said, well, it's albino. Maybe it doesn't get exposed to sunlight. This could be a subterranean animal, though a huge subterranean animal, even if it is dwelling in the ground, seems
Yeah.
like something. We know about fucking moles and shrews and whatever the fuck else digs holes. I highly doubt big, hulking, white-horned, thick-tailed beast could be underground, while others, of course, jump to the conclusion, as they would because of the horns, and even though it's not We don't get a good description of its face, unfortunately, but it's
Yeah.
probably bestial. That it's a flat-out demon. I'm not sure. I
is
certainly
that-
don't subscribe to the first one,
I
and
mean,
I'm dubious about the
Is
second
that
one.
like a demon in like the biblical
Yes.
like
Is this
description?
thing? They're saying it is, but I mean, horns were painted in a lot of the medieval paintings.
exactly.
And,
But that was all done by what's his name?
like Hieronymus
Hieronymus
Bosch.
Bosch, yeah.
He wasn't the only one, but he certainly perpetrated it. You know, and you got
Because it seems
Dante's
like if you're
Inferno.
a demon,
and
being a demon like white fur is not going to work out well for being a demon.
here's the catch.
It seems like you're going to be like
I don't
awfully
think-
fucking hot in hell if you got her.
I don't think they mentioned it had fur.
Yeah, they don't.
Oh, really? There's
No.
fur?
No, to me, I just
assumed
mentioned
they had
skin.
fur.
You want to be like, oh yeah, it's a white furry thing with a thick tail and horns. And again, the wampa thing that pops to mind is totally, or even the
Maybe
sheep
that's why I
squatch.
was thinking fur,
So I compared it, but I think if it had a pelt, one of the eyewitnesses almost certainly would have mentioned it.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
basically got a horned, albino-skinned,
Right.
thick-tailed creature.
Or at best, very thin
Yes,
or
sparse.
short hair.
like
Right.
bristly. I mean, it's
Okay.
possible.
All
This
right.
is one of the frustrating things about a case that is, well, as of now, exactly 118 years old, give or take, and that you only have a few scant newspaper accounts and books
Yeah.
that have found it and archived it, and hopefully archived it correctly so that when we regurgitate it to you guys, we're giving you the real deal, at least to the best of our ability. But it is
Yeah.
still thin. Like, you'd wish Miss
Yeah, it's
Klein,
wicked thin.
between all of her crazy love affairs and this torrid triangle she had with Dryden and Ward,
Something's up
would have
with
written
her.
in her diary, oh, this beastly creature with a face like a porcupine and a tiger and an ocelot,
Yeah.
or something, and just in flowery terms described it, but we don't have that.
So what we have to go on here is that people are speculating that it's some sort of subterranean creature, or they're speculating that it's from hell. Okay, well that's a wide variety.
The hell thing, you package that with,
Yeah, but
it
do you
looks
ever-
sort of like a classic demon. It's the 1900s.
Do you ever take a demon off the table?
You never
Robert?
take a demon off the
Okay.
table. I know.
Egg
Or
leave the
diabetes.
demon on the table.
You got diabetes,
It is
hallucinogenics,
1900.
and demons. They're always on the table, but in my opinion, they're on the far edge of the table. But even further close to the precipice of the table, about to tumble off, is the idea that there's gigantic, super burrowing, horned monsters that live in upstate New York.
Wow, I mean, I mean, is it how? we don't have a map, but I just thought of House Cavern for some reason.
Well, we have caves
Yeah, we got caves
that
in
are
the area.
fucking tourist, holes
Yeah,
that
yeah.
people are in constantly,
You never
so it's
know.
not
Dude,
hiding
there
a
could be an
population.
entire subterranean existence below us that we have no idea about.
These could be
Except that we have gas lines that are under the ground, but whatever.
denizens of the hollow earth that occasionally have a straight
Oh.
shot up to one field
Are we
in
talking?
Copenhagen.
Are we talking Admiral Byrd here?
It could be. With the dinosaurs, the big-headed greys, the detrimental robots, and all the other things that are supposedly
Now,
in the middle of the earth.
interestingly enough, if you look at where this sighting happened, where it was located between Copenhagen and what was it, Deer?
Let's see
what
what
was
we got
it?
here. Deer River.
Deer River. Okay, so this is because we researched this a while ago, so I plotted it out to where the water town vortex is, which we can put an article to.
Oh, that's interesting.
We can link the article. We had the water. We're going to probably at some point cover the Watertown vortex properly.
Yes.
We did in the past, did on different podcasts, but the format's a little bit strange, and we're not going to put it out for this show. But the vortex is apparently some sort of, Chris, what would you say, gateway to the fairy world, right?
Well, according to this woman we talked to,
Yeah, so
the
The gist of the conversation was that she communicates with the other side by walking ley lines
yes,
and communicating with the fairy folk on the
like
other
commuting,
side.
like you can go
Going
there
through portals.
Like she goes there, yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, but this is only like 10 miles from it. So it's pretty
All
close.
right, so for the first time in ever,
Jeez, I didn't know that.
interdimensional might be the number one ticket on the table.
Well, as far, I mean...
Because I don't think it came from under the ground, either from hell or just a different strata or whatever.
right.
But, I mean, if it's near a notorious vortex wherein ethereal, otherworldly creatures dwell, then maybe occasionally something can slip out.
I mean, we don't have any proof she didn't tell us about ethereal other creatures besides the fairies.
Well, I mean,
So-
who's to say what a fairy looks like? I mean, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to
she
tell a
did-
fairy
she
that it has to
actually
look like
she
Tinkerbell. It
told
could be
Chris
whatever.
and, she told Chris and I they basically look like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, right? Like,
Did she really?
Yeah, no,
And
they-
she picked that notorious duo.
no,
I have
actually,
to-
she
it-
picked Legolas.
Here I
from,
have to admit that I could not make this expedition because of a family incident, which thank God wasn't tragic. So I didn't get a chance to actually interview this woman, always to my eternal chagrin. But the more stories I hear over the years, the more delighted I am. So it's a cross between Legolas, Ben Affleck, and Matt Damon.
I think just Legolas. I
Are
think
you sure
Affleck
this-
and Damon is my take on it. She basically said that the people she meets on the other side of this vortex look like movie stars.
This also sounds like vigorous one-handed fan fiction.
I'm assuming because they're gorgeous,
yeah.
they're good looking. They're a good looking people.
Well, I have no beef with that, but they might have pets. Like, our dogs
true, they
are
could.
beloved creatures in our
True.
households, but they don't look like humans.
Right.
In fact, they would look like monsters if you didn't know, full of teeth and claws and
Yeah.
barking loudly and growling. Any creature that wasn't familiar with a dog might be terrified of it.
Right.
Maybe this is a
Hey,
fairy
maybe
dog.
this thing came out of the fairy world and ended up in this field sleeping. Maybe it didn't.
Maybe
Maybe it's from underground.
Maybe it's an alien. Just because
could
they
be an
didn't happen
alien,
to see the UFO, it could have been a napping alien. He just crash landed or landed for a minute for a break, saw some hay, and it's like, that looks way comfy.
Besides, like the sheep.
Why the fuck are you chucking rocks at me?
Yeah.
Ow.
Besides a sheep squash, is there any other like albino or like white cryptids like that?
Well,
that
the
look like,
one I mentioned earlier, the giant sloth
the
from
giant
Sherman, New
sloths,
York,
yeah.
which is again, that is a whole other thing. But you'd think if there's a population of giant albino sloths living in New York State, even a relatively rural part of it, would have come to light by now. But still,
well, not if they're bending time and space.
okay. Well, all right, so they're Time Lord sloths who can do what they will when they will, as they might. But there's
What were
tons
those
of
cool things
albino
in,
cryptids
what were those cool things in Dune that showed up
in Dune.
in what do they call it? Like the Navigators? I've seen the movie
Oh yeah,
forever.
the Guild Navigators.
Yeah.
They're basically giant worm things
Yeah.
floating in the spice melange
Yeah, and
tubes.
They were people though.
They were humanoids that
Right.
Too much spice.
or had a hyper evolution put upon them by the consumption of this addictive spice that made them super psychic and look basically
But
like
didn't they like traverse
zygote
time and
whales.
space or some shit?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't think we're dealing with Guild Space Navigators.
You're trying to tell me that Dune is not science?
I'm not trying to
Right.
tell you that. I'm telling you it's a movie that I love
if
despite
Chris
all my
tells me to
better
put my hand in
instincts.
the box, I should not put my hand in the box.
Fucking, you're gonna get Gom Jabbar'd all over the place, bitch.
Yeah, do not that.
Catch
do
a
not do
Gom
that.
Jabbar in the face.
No one's ever said
Plus,
that.
well, then it doesn't really specifically say that it's an albino just because it's white,
You're right. I'm the one
no, it's
inferring
true.
it.
It's true.
There's
It
a
could
lot of
just be
things
the
that are white
color,
that
yeah.
and
are
it could
albino.
be the only white one if there's in its thing. If there's more of them,
Are tails ever a feature of Sasquatch? I don't think so.
Not in my experience.
I've never heard of anything like that.
If it looked like a Sasquatch and had a tail,
Right.
then you'd be like, I don't know what you'd fucking do with that.
Mostly,
that's not a
whenever I hear
Sasquatch.
about tails, it's like lizard men, isn't it?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing, too. It doesn't say if it's scales. It
No,
doesn't say
not at
fur.
all.
yeah, there's not a lot.
So
to
we know
there.
it's white. We just know it's fucking white. So
And it
what
got
if
a
it
big
is
tail
reptilian?
and horns.
Because reptiles have thick hair, thick tails, and are often horned,
Right.
or they have bumps on their cranium that might resemble horns.
And
to
they
someone who
can
doesn't
climb
know.
out of the earth, as we know.
So, and they don't. And then when they say it's on its haunches and then sprint it up, they don't say did it sprint on four legs? Is it a quadruped? Is it bipedal?
I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
Does it jump in
is
mighty
it
leaps?
running on two legs here? What's it doing? Is it using its tail as like a?
Like a kangaroo would.
Yeah. Is it Jumpa? Wonder
sake.
Woman, Wonder Woman's pet kangaroo.
That is a fucking crazy pull.
It is kind of. It's interesting that there are enough details to be like, okay, this is some sort of creature that we don't know what it is.
Not to go down Johnny Debunksville, but in deference to what Mark just said, what if it was an albino kangaroo and these motherfuckers from upstate New York just... I don't know how common it was to see kangaroos in zoos at the time. I mean, maybe you
Right.
did if you were in big cities, but maybe if you just
Escaped.
didn't know. If you saw a thing that had haunches and was white and had a thick tail and maybe the ears looked like horns from a distance because it
Yeah.
moves so quick.
Yeah, it could be.
If it or even pale, not even just white, but like a pale colored kangaroo, if you've never seen one, is going to seem monstrous.
Yeah. Well, I think what I was trying to get at is that they do have some details, but they're lacking some pretty important
Lacking
ones.
height, approximate weight,
Weight.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the lot of
scales,
important
skin,
stuff.
or hair.
So-
It's just white.
Or just
From horns,
face,
thick
like,
tail,
what does it
haunches.
look
Yes,
like?
does it resemble a bull, a bear, a human, a lizard? What?
Because what they're giving us is just a white beast with horns and haunches.
That can move very quickly.
Yeah.
And is apparently not so aggressive that even though it might well have been able to overpower people, especially unarmed people,
Right.
It didn't. It ran away when it got hit by a rock and stopped and looked at you like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And then later on when they came back like fools, it's just there. Looks at them again and takes off. So it's either afraid of humans or just not interested in hurting or consuming humans.
Right.
Or was full of all the humans it ate earlier. It's like, fuck it, I'm done.
I just ate a village.
Yeah.
We're fine.
I was just at Anjikuni.
Yeah.
I ate a village.
You know, or this is possibly something where like these two guys was it 2 guys or 3 guys that saw it?
It was two guys.
Right, okay.
Warden, Dryden, and then Klein.
And this is a
female.
little Downton Abbey. This
All
is
right, go for it.
this is a little Mark's.
No, I like the Tour de Fair
Mark's
idea.
romantic thing here. So what if these two dudes are like vying for like this like woman's attention? Or, well,
easily
no,
believe
because
it.
then they both got to be in on the lie. If they go back like, oh my God, we saw this crazy white beast, and then she's like, oh yeah, boys, you did. Go get it from Mama. Go get it from Mama. Then what?
Better yet, Mama's coming with you.
Yeah, 'cause
exactly.
Mama with
So
them,
okay,
so-
maybe that wouldn't work because they both have to be in on it to try to like win her heart.
Now I wish I checked genealogical records, if any there be, to see if Miss Klein married either Ward or Dryden or somebody else from that area.
This seems like some 1900 courting bullshit could go down with this. Like, oh, I saw something scary. Don't worry, ma'am. I'll save you.
Well, a man trying to be a Superman in front of a lady when he's really about to shit his pants is this tale as old as time.
Yeah,
that
that's the deal.
wouldn't be a twist.
I think we're all man enough to know that shit don't work.
Oh, I'm man enough to know I'd rather not get laid and be alive than try to impress somebody and end up a fucking pile of organs.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just
because
facts.
we have the internet.
Exactly.
There you go.
We've grown up with horror films. We know how you react. If an old man ever warns me at a gas station, keep away from the shack.
I'm gonna
it's where the
keep away, yeah.
Sasquatch rapes ye. I'll be like, fuck that shack. I was heading to that shack.
not
I was
going
gonna
there.
party at that
Not
shack.
gonna do it.
I'm going home.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
because
watch
the old
Netflix.
crazy man warned me, and I know what happens when they fucking warn you.
Yeah.
You don't listen, you die. So I follow the rules.
Yeah, it's never not happened. It's never like, don't go there, and they go there, and, like, and it was the greatest
And it was
party
the
ever.
best.
Yeah,
and then
no.
the credits roll. I was like, that guy
That
was
old
fucking
dude was crazy.
Yeah.
That never happened.
What an asshole.
Dude had so many beers for free. It was awesome. He was making hot dogs and hamburgers. He had fucking balloon animals. It was the sickest
perfect.
party
They had
ever.
a bouncy house, and cake stands.
I know, and he's like,
Everyone
I could
had a
have
ball.
I could have sworn he would have died, man. I don't know. Like,
So I guess
Sure.
maybe the angle that these two dudes made this up to impress this girl wouldn't necessarily work because they both got to be in on the hoax. Possibly it could have.
the
I'm not
thing
sure.
is-
the
yeah, but she was
relationship.
There,
there.
for the second viewing. That's the thing that gets me. If they were like,
She
oh,
went
let's
with
tell
him. No, I
Nancy
didn't
that
think
there was
about
something
that.
spooky, and
Yeah.
we'll have an
Well, then
excuse
she
to get her
saw
out in the
it.
darkness, and then maybe
No,
one
she
of us
went
will
with
get
him.
lucky. It's like
she's the one who suggested it.
yeah.
Yeah. So so that wouldn't work.
Oh no, guys, you just need a lantern and your vim and vigor.
That's all you need in 1900.
Don't ever try to impress a woman with your vim and vigor. Just
Leave
don't.
the blunderbuss.
Yeah, exactly. Leave your weaponry. Just go out there with your manhood.
Leave your dirks.
So,
Oh,
all right.
Are you
so,
mocking my dirks?
so maybe what it could be. I mean, okay. So hoax wise, I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, this is 1900. There's not really a lot happening. I mean,
Well,
there's more than what was
I mean, there's
happening.
plenty
like
going on. If you're from,
1860 something.
by our standards, it seems like it's a pretty slow and boring time. But by 1900 standards, it was probably like, this beats the fuck out of 1885.
That's
we are
probably
rocking
true.
in Weedsport.
That's true.
Oh, maybe. Consumption's going down.
Yeah, god damn it.
Infants are living almost twice as long
Yeah.
to toddlerhood.
Yeah, hey, I'm ready to retire. I'm 23. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they do have an angle to kind of spin this tale, you know, like local local folklore or something
I've
like
done
that.
a lot of research on New York folklore. Obviously, it's where we're from, and so
Right.
you check your own backyard as quick as you, or quicker than you probably check other places. Now, I can't purport to be a full-on expert on all Native American lore from around here, or even
I didn't
pioneer
think about
lore.
that, yeah.
But I've looked into a lot of it, and I've not come across anything that specifically deals with that. Of course, I would like to be corrected. If somebody out there knows of something that I
Right.
missed, then yeah, we'll add this to the pantheon of knowledge. But as it stands now, this seems to be a fairly unique creature and or manifestation, if it is that.
Yeah, no, it could be from
So-
from the old dark one.
Old
Which
scratch.
I still I mean,
Old Nick.
I don't get the whole demon angle. I mean, I guess
Horn
for now, well,
and
yeah,
human,
I know,
white,
but I don't know.
springs up.
Tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems too much of like is it do demons really look like that?
I would
Is
know.
a devil really doing the red suit with a pitchfork? I hope not, because that'd be a bummer.
Well, no. There's
This is
no evidence
really
of that.
you? Really? That's terrible.
I
He's a
hope
better
not.
PR person. 'Cause this is bullshit.
You are the fucking fashion
Yeah.
manager of the Satan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, demons better look pretty fucking gnarly.
All right.
Pretty sweet.
So I think we can all agree none of us are probably really enthusiastic about the demonic entity theory.
yeah, no, there's just nothing there. I mean, if they were smelling sulfur and there was people like throwing up sigils and
Or
signs,
if there was a
and
burst of flames through which it
Yeah.
disappeared, some classically
some
demonic
cool,
bullshit.
Yeah, some super
Well,
dark,
according to
evil
people
shit.
who think they know what they're talking about when they say that still doesn't
True,
mean
yeah.
You're right. It's true.
you know what I mean. Like,
I mean, we've all been around somebody who
self-proclaimed
farted pure
experts.
sulfur. It doesn't mean they're from hell. It just means they ate some horrible hard-boiled eggs or something. So
Well, yeah.
we can't always assume fucking demon.
well, no, what's what I mean? I mean, you can make up your own martial arts and be your own grandmaster of it.
True.
And be like, I'm
That's
the
true,
master
yeah.
of Boondorb.
Oh,
What the fuck's that? You don't even know.
Can I get a Boondor belt?
Yeah, seriously.
So,
I see a lot of videos
yeah.
of that online. Yeah. Yeah, so when someone farts, don't immediately scream Beelzebub because it might not be that. It might not
No,
be that.
you just
yeah.
might be embarrassing your grandma who loves fucking deviled eggs. So just leave her be.
right.
Oh, poor Grimes.
Let her do her thing.
Yeah.
So, all right, no demon.
All right, no demon.
Not a goddamn subterranean creature because we don't even find random giant holes. If there was occasionally, like, you walk outside and it's like, where did this fucking huge hole come from? God darn it. It's a burrowing white horned beast.
Yeah, no.
But
Yeah.
that doesn't happen either.
No.
So-
I mean, maybe a system of caves, but it seems like it's a real stretch.
Huge stretch,
I
I would
almost
think.
would think. I almost think like a demon's not so much of a stretch compared to the cave system.
I can dig that.
Yeah,
Maybe.
and that's only because why? Because they said it was white and that maybe.
Now, bear in mind,
'Cause it was
this
subterranean,
wasn't
yeah.
Ward or Dryden or Klein's theory. This might have been proposed by a reporter or something
Yeah.
that looked into it.
Right,
years later.
right.
This is just something I stumbled across on the web. I can't even remember the source, but that,
Yeah.
to me, that's just wild speculation. Hey, it's albino. Maybe it doesn't get sunlight. Maybe it burrows.
Right,
Maybe
and
that's why you don't see it.
that's
And
still an
it.
assumption that it's an albino. That's what, like,
Yeah.
if you didn't even read that, I would have never thought it's some underground.
Yeah.
I think that's
It
where
would
it
not
got
have
caught in
crossed
my craw too.
my
Like,
mind.
oh, it might be albino, isn't that? So Chris was very accurate
But I mean,
to point out that it's not necessarily
is it a
albino.
thing though that like things that like live in the ground are all like white?
Yeah,
Like,
albinism in like perpetual cave-dwelling creatures like eels or
That
salamanders.
is a thing?
Yeah, they lose
Okay, just
pigmentation.
making sure.
They have no use for it.
Right,
they
there's
often
no
lose
sun.
eyesight because they don't have any use for that too. So they end up blind and pale. Deep cave-dwelling creatures often end up like that.
That sucks.
But there's no evidence that suggests that this thing is blind.
Right. Right.
And there is evidence to suggest it's pale, but it was sleeping outside at night, and maybe if it got exposed to sunlight and it freaked out, maybe that would lend credibility to it. But we just don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah,
All right.
Honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards a pale kangaroo that maybe used to be like Harvey, the boxing kangaroo.
Oh, like it escaped from like the Wheat
like a
Sport
road-
Carnival.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's on a road show. Every weeknight he fights Curtains McAllister. Classic pugilist. Head to head. Australian beast and
you
man.
think it's some vaudeville shit?
Yeah, totally.
Like some crazy ass vaudeville shit, and Harvey's like, "Oh fuck this! I'm
Dude,
gonna fucking
people-
graze and sleep in this field."
Think about it. It's 1900s. People are selling tonics, retiring at 23. Infants are barely living.
Cocaine is full of Coke Classic. Switch it around.
Consumption's
Yeah,
everywhere, and then
yeah.
you go to the carnival and you got people fighting fucking animals for your own fucking amusement.
Bear
And this thing
wrestling,
escaped.
kangaroo
Maybe
boxing.
somebody let this thing go. Like this creature needs to be free.
Do you think an early version of PETA said, "It's time for you to roam"?
Nah, I think this may have been like farmhand or something. I just let it go. It was like, hey, this animal's nice to me. Like Lenny from Mice and Men. He's just
Yeah.
like,
But instead of accidentally crushing bunnies,
yeah,
he's
or killing a
releasing them.
woman. Yeah, totally.
Oh, I
yeah.
can't, every time you say that, it breaks my heart a little.
What
Lenny
the-
of Mice and Men. It's one of those things that
I
get you.
know, it hits us all.
I have to tell a side story, just briefly. When my niece got that book in school a few years ago in high school of Mice and Men, some rat prick wrote on the inside cover, "Lenny dies at the end." It's like, you shitty human being.
yeah.
You horrible person.
But you know what? That's kind of
that's hilarious,
But
though.
maybe it was a mercy. Maybe it wrecked that fucker so much they're like, "I'm not letting anyone else go through this
Because
pain."
you can't read that book at the end and not be like, oh my god.
Cried like a baby.
Yeah, totally. That was like one of the first or second major books I had to like read for school, and I'm like, why are you making me like they had like Old Yeller?
Yeah.
Like, do you want me just to be miserable and fucking cry all the time?
Yeah,
Like,
and then they throw you Suicide Teens with Romeo and Juliet. High school school is trying to make you kill yourself.
Yeah, no, these are
basically.
classics.
Yeah,
Stone
classics.
classics.
Yeah.
Have a nice life. This is life.
All right, so you know what? Maybe this thing did escape from some sort of like traveling carnival. Because there's obviously no regulations and rules about animals that you could get.
In 1900, you could travel around. You could sell
do anything.
like snake oil, like you say, that was full of like whiskey and mercurochrome and cyanide and fucking heroin, whatever the fuck you
Man,
wanted.
you get that good whiskey cocaine fucking combination.
Can you imagine, like when you went to the doctor
Partying.
for a cough
They give
and
you
you ended up
heroin.
on a 3-day high?
Yeah, because they gave you heroin.
Could you imagine?
That's how Aleister Crowley ended up dying of a heroin ODing because they gave him heroin for asthma.
As a lifelong asthmatic,
You could be a junkie right now.
I'm
yeah.
really glad I wasn't an asthmatic then.
Yeah,
Because I
totally.
don't want that.
All right, so some sort of possible. Is there any other kind of creature in the? Well, no, because all we have around here really is bears. There's
Yeah.
There's
clearly
bears
isn't
and
a bear.
deer,
But
and
Yeah.
but neither of them have tails of any
no,
substance.
no.
No. There is a group of albino deer, but again, this doesn't make any sense but there is a group of albino deer, I believe, in Utica. Have you heard about that? They have like an entire like
They got
enclave
kind of inbred because they were sort of
No,
closed
it's
off.
up at 5 Points correctional because it's all fenced off.
Oh no! Okay, you're right. But so where is that in relation to Watertown?
It's not. It's by
really not.
It's by
Okay,
Seneca Lake.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, you could always
South Lake.
state paler living through incest, but that still doesn't help us identify this creature.
No.
Like you lose pigmentation through constant interbreeding.
Paler living through incest.
When you're interbreeding in a small population over and over again, that's
That's
how
a terrible
you get,
brochure
That's
to
how you get a
read.
population
My God.
of albino
Yeah,
creatures.
they are
Right.
mutants.
It's not good for them. It looks pretty, but it's horrible.
Yeah, mutants.
They are
I love
mutants.
They are
Anytime
mutants,
someone
yeah.
pronounces it mutants, I get a secret thrill.
No, I like
I'm
it.
yes.
That's all I say now, just because bad B movies.
Oh,
call
yeah,
them
that's how they pronounce it all the
mutants.
time.
I'm like, yes,
I think he is a mutant.
a mutant.
All right, alien. No UFOs?
No UFOs.
It seems
No.
unearthly what little description we
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
But if you've got a sweet UFO and you're sleeping in your awesome float-a-bed or whatever the fuck you have, why are you just laying in some shit and
Yeah.
dirt in the middle of a field?
So
Yeah.
wait, did they give a time of day? Was it at night?
I think it was at night.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
at night.
well, so it was at night in
Because
some random road.
They use the lantern to
To
check
go
it
back.
so
out,
that
yeah.
means there's probably not a lot. So this thing very well could not have been white. Like you said, I
Well,
mean,
Yeah, because you're right.
Yeah,
anything
actually, yeah.
that's just light colored.
You're not having street lamps probably out in that kind of a rural
No,
area.
no.
So you're basically dealing
Exact-
with moonlight, but they didn't say if it was a full moon or
Right.
I don't remember them saying, "Oh, and I could see that," but they could see enough to see it. So we have to assume the moon was bright enough to see. And enough
Sure,
to
but
see that
still.
it's pale, but you're right. It could have been
Beige.
beige, yeah,
Anything-
sandy colored. You're absolutely
anything
right.
Yeah.
light
So all
could
right, so
be.
we can let's just throw albino and pure white
Okay.
out of the discussion.
That's
we
fine.
just know it's light colored.
All right.
Sure.
That we can confirm because they saw it and they assumed it was white, so it must be pretty light.
I mean, I
Yeah.
guess
I don't think it really helps anything.
Like-
no, that doesn't really bring us
No.
closer to
But-
anything. But it feels good to say, all right, we're getting rid of this information.
trying to
Let's
Sherlock
narrow
it,
down.
yeah.
we're trying to Sherlock the
so
fuck out of it, but
if
we're
what
not going
they're
to get
saying
anywhere.
is that we're dealing with haunches, horns, and a tail the size of a man's torso.
Which is a thick ass tail.
Yeah.
A kangaroo tail.
I don't know.
Just saying.
Yeah, but I mean, a kangaroo tail though, thick as a man's torso.
Well, no. Well, a small man, who knows? I mean, a tiny, thin man. But I'm just saying, kangaroos.
1900s.
Laugh at me all you want, but
Size of a
kangaroos have
toddler.
one of the thickest tails in the animal
No, they
kingdom.
do.
Oh no,
They're
they
super
do
thick.
totally.
Certainly
yeah.
of mammals.
They do. Yeah.
They have an epically thick tail in proportion to their body compared to almost any other mammal on Earth.
Just a couple years ago, I got to hold one in a little basket, and he had his cute little tail flipping and flopping
Was
everywhere.
it a kekangaroo or a wallaby?
Oh, I don't know. It was a little marsupial thing.
Yeah,
Could
good
have been a
enough.
wallaby. I don't know. It had a tail. It was thick,
And kangaroos have haunches for days.
and all I wanted to do was just sleep in my arms. And I had
That's
to,
adorable.
I paid my $10.
It's worth it.
I got a picture with it, and then I had to leave it behind.
100% worth it.
Totally. It was
$10, you made a steal, my friend.
You
true.
bonded and then you had to leave behind and cry.
That must have hurt a
I
little.
did. I was like, no.
Can I just have it?
Just let me bring it home.
I wonder if you get a license for a kangaroo.
I
And
don't
or a
know.
wallaby.
I don't know. I would just train it to kick everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
As my kangaroo.
we did tell the story I think once or twice on this
the best
podcast
thing
about
that
how
they
there
do.
was that wallaby that escaped and it was loose in the throughway.
Yes.
And actually, at work, there was a truck driver who was like, "Oh, did you hear about the wallaby that was on the throughway? I saw it twice. I thought I was on acid again." And I was
Oh,
like,
boy.
yeah.
Good sign for a truck driver.
Then I actually saw the news story, and I'm like, "Holy shit, the guy was right." I thought he was just being like a fucking weirdo about it. But no, for real, there's a
you
loose
can
wallaby.
be both a weirdo and accurate sometimes.
It's true, you can.
It's
You
a
can.
real
if
possibility.
If this show has proven nothing,
It proves that.
So yeah, it's possible.
All
So
right,
I
let's
guess
give our
stranger
final
shit's
verdicts.
happened, honestly.
Final verdict on what? I mean, we can't know. It's too sketchy. But what are we leaning towards?
Are we going to go classic podcast and write this down to a ghost rod or a demon?
Oh, that's funny.
Could be.
I
Could be a
mean,
rod.
It's white-ish.
Could be a
Off-white.
ghost.
Ghosts are always off-white, according to Scooby-Doo cartoons.
Allegedly. Okay, so Chris, what do you think this is?
I don't know. It doesn't fit any animal that lives around these parts.
Okay, fair enough. No, fair enough.
I don't know.
Robert?
It's hard to think of it as a traditional cryptid because, like Chris said, there's no other real reports of something like this. I mean, a little bit from Sherman, New York, some years after, like 60-something years later, but it still was a different thing.
Right.
So, oddly enough, it is either something truly ethereal and paranormal, not necessarily from hell, but maybe from the Watertown vortex or some other parallel realm, or it is simply a kangaroo.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, or something
fair
they
enough.
just misidentified.
But it's hard to tell. To me, it's either like extremely outlandish from like other realms,
Right.
or
Kangaroo.
the circus really
Yeah.
needs to fucking
It
have
was a
better
Great
locks.
Dane.
And actually, you know what's funny? The description does sort of fit the description of the classic Marvel Comics Wendigo.
It does a little bit,
But that is the only
Little bit.
only description that it matches, and that doesn't count because it's a comic book character.
yeah.
So if I was like, oh, it's the Wendigo from the Great White North, but actual Wendigos are fucking super evil looking.
Oh, super evil.
They got
They
like
can change.
deer shit on their
Yes,
heads
when
and
you see
like
like the
weird
Mike Mignola
legs.
drawing,
Yeah,
they
totally.
like got
Yeah.
hooves and horns, but
Yeah.
really they can assume all sorts of different shapes, and their only maintaining characteristic is a love for human flesh.
And the Marvel Comics Wendigo does in fact have a giant tail like that.
Really,
It
yeah, that's
does.
right.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, so-
that was a good character. I liked it when he fought the Hulk or
Yeah,
Sasquatch from
totally.
Alpha Force. That was
Yeah.
great. Is it
So
Alpha Flight?
I was gonna say Alpha Flight. Yeah.
Thank you.
I was gonna say misidentified demon.
What do you mean?
I was going to say misidentified
Do you
demon.
mean they misidentified it as a demon, or it's a demon but was misidentified as something else?
It may have been a demon misidentified as something else.
I thought you were not on the demon bandwagon.
Oh no,
all
I'm
this
not. I was
conversation.
going to say that, but I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
I did not say that.
Double negative me to
I'm saying
pieces.
originally when we started this off, I'm like, yeah, this is the fucking demon from the Dark One.
But now you're at the place of,
probably a kangaroo.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Really.
But I kind of want, the Watertown
even-
Vortex was a really nice add-on you threw in
You
there,
know-
Mark. It makes me want to think maybe there are
Well,
just
sure.
things that can slip through.
Could be.
So,
All right, cool. So
Copenhagen Devil.
again, I started off wanting to believe it was a demon, but I'm gonna say, yeah,
Harvey McBouncers.
we're gonna be sticking with somehow a kangaroo may have gotten loose somewhere in the area. I mean, maybe I was thinking maybe like a bear with mange, but
But the tail.
the tail, yeah, the tail, and there's no horns or haunches. So, all right, there you have it. As
Haunches be
always,
damned.
hit us up in the social medias, the Twitters, the Facebooks, the Instagrams. Let us know what you think about this. And I know we have some listeners in the area, whether it's Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, Adirondacks. If you guys are in the area and you hear anything or you know any folklore or whatever about any creature that kind of sounds kind of like this, obviously let us know.
Please.
And yeah, we'd like to, if you have any information on this, we'd love to hear from you. So be sure to rate and review this podcast on the Apple iTunes and the Apple Podcast and the iTunes app. It helps us out greatly. Again, social medias, hit us up, like, follow, comment, and we'll be talking to you very soon.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Fear the albino roo.
Yeah, Jesus.